What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for December 2nd, 2024. IAE has come and gone at this point. CIG is pushing hard for 4.0, but the patches have been really rough, and flight is being changed again. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike. Stop by and say hi if you haven't yet. I always enjoy when you do. And this week, we don't have any sponsors, so I really want to take the time out to thank anyone who's become a member on this channel and who's maybe picked up some merch at saltemike.tv. You guys rock. Thanks for going the extra mile. And with that, let's get into some patch notes. All right, before we get into the meat of patches, I want to go through the IAE stuff quickly. So Monday, we had the Alien ships, nothing really going on here. No new ships available, just offering Rule of Cool ships for people to try out and see if they want to buy, I guess. Tuesday, RSI, and on this day, you can rent a Polaris for free. So the servers went insane. We also got to see the paints that you can apply to the Polaris, and the only one I really liked was the Concierge one. Also want to point out that there was a super price increase on this thing as well, and I don't think they did a heads up on it. Wednesday, we had Argo, Consolidated Outland, Grey Cat, and Kruger. Another day without too much to share besides another price hike. This was for the Pioneer, which actually was expected. More on that in dev posts in the other updates section. Thursday was Drake. Again, not much new to share here. Just being able to rent a ship like a Vulture would be nice for a new player, though, so that was pretty cool. Friday was Origin, and for me, the only thing worth noting was new paints for the 890 Jump. It's never had paints before, and I don't like them personally, but I hope the owners do, since that's something they've been waiting a really long time for. And then Saturday was Anvil. We finally have some news, a bunch of new ships, 4 to be exact, one being a concept. We knew about 3 of them. We know about the Hornet Tracker and Ghosts Mark IIs, but now you can see their prices, paints, and yeah, their sale pages. And then same for the Terrapin Medic variant. But we also found out about a new concept ship, the Paladin. It's a gunship, and I'll just point this out, that someone in my Discord, Vendes, said that he noticed. They nerfed the size 5 turrets, or turret, can't remember, on the Redeemer not that long ago, and all of a sudden, this ship has it. And what's weird is this ship is a little bit cheaper, which means it breaks the CCU chain. This is a common thing that CIG has been doing because they want you to pay for ships, not get them at a super deep discount. They aren't shy about this kind of behavior at all anymore. They also implied initially that the pilot would not be able to control wing weapons or any weapons at all, maybe. And then, so people got really concerned. Xylo hopped on Spectrum to let us know the pilot will be able to fire the wing weapons if nobody's in those seats, which will give it quite a bit of DPS. Anyone else remember the Corsair nerf? Me too. If this thing is at the levels of the Corsair, they're going to nerf this one too. So just keep that in mind. Lastly, this is a concept ship. They're now telling us ships that we purchased will not be available at launch. Ships that I purchased years ago. So if you want this for buyback, maybe, I get it. But unless said otherwise, assume this ship will not be available for launch of the game. It won't be there on day one for this game. And that's really why you buy ships at this point, right? So that's the advantage that you're gaining here, as well as paying less for them, I guess. And then Sunday was Best in Show. It's pretty simple. All the ships available are to rent on this day, and anyone who owns the finalists by today are eligible to get the free purple skins and those ship posters and things like that. They also are selling some armor and weapon skins as well. They're pretty cool. Not my style. I'm not a big purple fan for any of this stuff, to be honest. And I have to say, IAE was just kind of a miss for me, with Save Stanton being so messy and no ships that went for sale that excited me very much. I have to say, I'm glad it's over and we can finally put focus back on the game itself. And with that, Monday, 4.0, Wave 1. Let's talk about some patches that we had this week. The notes didn't give much, but I did try the improved jump points, and I was able to complete one, but it was very choppy. There were some weird local missions that never really spawned anything, and I had to recopy a few times because I was consistently crashing when loading into the stations. This continued to happen all the way through Sunday. And for bugs, they certainly fixed the lack of asteroids at the gas clouds. I went mining and there were a lot of minables, but they were just kind of placeholder, just gold and stuff like that. So it was nothing of note at this moment. Tuesday, 4.0 wave 1. Again, from this day forward, it was a bit harder to get footage because I was hosting family for the holidays. It was American Thanksgiving. So they did a lot of polishing to the contested zones, but they're still bug ridden. Animations for the grazers is ongoing, but the major change that I did get some footage for, or tried to at least, was PDC hostility. They won't just shoot anything anymore because players were getting insta crime stats. They were shooting like guards and stuff. I tested this on Sunday. It didn't quite work for me, but I was told many people experienced good things with these changes. I was just unlucky. I had a really bad server. So you can also see that party members are on the Mobi-Glass again, because they used to be a long time ago, I think, but they haven't been working for a while. At the time of recording, we could not QT to each other, but again, I was on a pretty bad server. Jump points were completely broken. If you hit anything, you spun out of control. So it created a cool challenge for players not to fail. On Wednesday, Save Stanton Phase 4 happened. This was on live, and this was brutal. I did not enjoy this event at all. It was really annoying to move so many boxes. It just felt like a cargo mission. And a resource, not a resource gathering mission, right? I struggled to gather everything the first day, and I just had my org pull up stuff for me that I was missing. Because as you can see, I had to complete the mission 8 times to get a reward instead of the 6 that you were supposed to. I ran out of material before I could complete it. Once completed, you received 2 size 2 and 2 size 3 Ardor repeaters, which are basically upgraded attritions that do a bit more damage. They were quite fun to use, and it was a nice kind of thing to have a quest reward in the game for the first time. What I don't like about it is I had to log in and out of the game to get them. It is not really a quest reward unless you are getting that reward in the game instantly. This whole attributed to the website and then you have to log out of the game and come back in. We are so far from a completed experience at this point. It's scary. Then Wednesday, another 4.0 Wave 1 patch. Big change here was 100% the injury and trigger probability changes with NPC enemies. They may have dialed it back a bit too far on the trigger side, but the injuries don't feel as insane as they did. But I did record footage on Sunday, same with all the other footage that you're pretty much seeing here, and the server I was on was horrible. Friday, another Wave 1 patch for 4.0, and this was a minor one without too much to add. They made some Star Lancer flight nerfs. It's not as maneuverable as it once was, and that was the patches for this week. Again, it was kind of a crazy day trying to get all the footage for you guys, but I'm just happy that we're through the free flights and we can get focused on 4.0 exclusively now. And then we got a roadmap roundup this week. It was a pretty simple roundup, though. They are just confirming that for 4.0, most of the tech and features we are aware of at this point are committed for the patch. This means they're pretty likely to go live with them, right? That just means that they're most likely not going to be taken out or something. They start out with the obvious, meshing and jump points. We were never going live without them in a working state, as this isn't the kind of jump in players so far that you would have liked to see. Like 2 systems, 380 max players between all of those, all that area it just feels pretty empty so far. So it's working, but it's not delivering the experience that we're all looking for just yet. Stations in the system are very obviously in, right? You've got to have the stations in the system as well, and space cows and some outposts. Again, nothing special at all here. And then they filled out the rest of this with the fact that there's locations and planets and moons. There's a lot of places to go, but I don't know if each of them should get a card on the roadmap though. So let's go to those video updates. And for video updates, we had 2 shows this week, IAE Show 3 and IAE Show 4. We'll start out with 3, obviously. The big thing about this episode was it was a huge talk about master modes, and there's a few changes that they feel need to be implemented to solve a lot of the issues that we see today. So let's start out with the first one, converting flight modes to operator modes.
With master modes itself, we have obviously the 2 master modes, SCM and Nav. A big thing is that we're going to actually be demoting or converting those modes from master modes to operator modes. What that inherently means is that we're still going to have a mode that is dedicated to fighting and having combat. There is going to be a mode that's dedicated to your quantum. But we're going to be removing some of the fail-safe restrictions, yes, that had when you switching between these modes. We're going to be moving towards one cohesive speed between all operator modes. That speed is going to be more akin to what you'd imagine SCM speeds are now, but there's two big, huge caveats that come into that. First off is crafting.
So they want to remove the abrupt or drastic differences between the two modes. We will have weapons in nav mode now, or quantum mode, or whatever they want to call it, but we still won't have shields, and we don't currently know about countermeasures. They didn't say anything about them, but they also cited new players just going too fast in nav mode and not being able to control their ship, so they want to keep the main flight modes simple. Don't know how this will affect combat that much, but their solution for this, well, we've seen it before. It's just they haven't implemented it yet, and that is quantum boost. Once again, we saw this at CitizenCon 2023.
And when we start to add more space exploration and more missions towards the different guilds that we're operating on, where you're going to having to go into deep space and go into these large distances, we want you to be spending more time doing the mission than flying there. This is where quantum boost comes in. So quantum travel is for flying millions of kilometers away when you have a specific quantum marker that you're flying towards. Then you've got your flight speeds, which should be, you know, say sub 20 kilometers, where you're flying around, exploring on the planet, or fighting at a POI, or doing a bounty hunting. But anywhere above that, we want to kind of accelerate that process of that navigation. And quantum boost goes all the way up to your top speed of SCM, or top speed of our flight mode, the current nav mode, all the way up to essentially a tenth of quantum travel speed. You have this spectrum of speeds that allow you to navigate the large spaces in our game, but also then still stay true to some of the intentions that we delivered with master modes.
All right, so I have no idea how this could affect combat, and that is in relation to running away, disengaging, all things that we do still kind of have issues with today with master modes, or ships like the Mantis, Cuddy Blue, stuff like that. What I do know is general traversal through the game using quantum boost sounds awesome. Flying from an OM to another location on a moon, asteroid to asteroid when mining, salvage location to salvage location, this would be greatly improved. And what I heard by this conversation is they absolutely got this part right, but that can't make combat feel bad either. So we learned very little about that. What we did learn quite a lot about is how they think crafting will play into all this, and it's far different than I expected.
And through the use of crafting to improve your components and of course your presets and quantum boost rather, you can get up to speeds that are approaching the current nav speed and stuff like that. So we're not taking that speed away. We're defaulting everything to a speed that is closer to today's SCM. And then giving the player choices in how and when they can get up to that speed without completely disabling everything.
I mean, ultimately, it allows us to keep the kind of the default. We're trying to move towards a balance across the game where you can start off easier and it gets harder. So we want the default to be open and compatible to lots of players, but then as you start to specialize and it becomes hard to master and you start to work in the different avenues of different professions that you like, that's where you can start to customize your ship.
So I gotta say, I'm glad that Jared kind of coaxed this answer out of them. It sounded like in SCM, we will be able to see the old nav speeds. Honestly, that creates more questions than answers for me. But yeah, listen to that a few times if you need to. It will take crafting, your power allocation, and more to get the fastest ship. The current meta, speed really matters, is my understanding. Again, not much of a combat pilot, so comment down below if I'm missing something. So I will pose a question. Why would a combat pilot want anything else but speed? So I guess we'll have to see what changes when Armor and Maelstrom comes in. What will be the downsides of going fast? They said nothing about downsides. They only said what you can go into, not what you lose if you don't go down the shield route or something like that, right? Then Rich addresses my biggest concern, but spoiler alert, I don't feel much better after what he said.
A key point to also make is that if you don't want to craft, if you don't want to go down that route because you just want to shoot ships and be a combat pilot, or you just want to be a miner or a space trucker, there's nothing wrong with that. You can still gain access to this because player trading is going to be something that allows players to gain access to these components and ships without having to go through some of the grind that they have, and obviously they're now reaping the benefits of that. But you have lots of choice.
I want to be clear here. This is absolutely 100% of the loop that I want to play. I want to craft the most powerful ships for combat pilots. What they don't seem to understand is that the combat pilots, not all combat pilots, but PvPers, basically the person he put in the example, they don't have a way to make money in Star Citizen at the moment, right? Single seaters and nearly all soloable ships cannot store loot or components that a PvP encounter would drop. Player bounties or PvE content is not what these players are looking for. How about this? Because I can already hear you typing about orgs supporting these players. How does a solo PvPer make money in Star Citizen with what we know today? Yep, it's an MMO. That's another thing I can hear you typing. But have you ever played an MMO before? People play solo all the time, for most of the time when they play MMOs, and then they get together with their friends to do raid-like content, right? So I have no idea how any of this is going to work, and I don't think they do either. And anything you would be saying in the comments would be a guess. We need that answered by them before I can be confident that these answers make sense. Then we get a quick question and answer portion of the show, and we hear about 2 different vehicles.
Where is my Crusader Starliner?
It's going to be after 1.0.
Will you ever make the Rock DS good?
Yes, so we want to enclose both players, whether they're going to be side by side or line astern, still to be decided.
So another ship that I paid a lot of money for years ago will not be available at the launch of the game. And they're going to completely redo the Rock DS. Okay. Then they address one of my most requested features, and my least.
What's the deal with the Mule?
Mule's still waiting for a little feature to allow you to remotely disconnect items from pilot seat. This is the same thing we need for the Prospector and the Mole as well, to remotely detach the mining sacks.
What's the deal with that double-engine Hornet we saw in the Squadron playthrough?
That's a cool special little variant used by Squadron 42.
What's it called?
It's the F7X.
Ooh. Will that ever come to the Persistent Universe?
It might do.
So I'm dying to drop my bags from my mining ships. I think this is so important. I also hope this applies to ships like the Argo Raft or the Hull A, right? But then they are adding another variant of a ship that will likely nullify any of the other ships that they created, making it more powerful and creepy and less enjoyable than the current PvP experience that we have. I literally quit PvPing because of the Hornet Mark II. And now there's the Hornet Mark X. Like, what are we doing? And this last one is definitely for me.
Tell us something you're not supposed to tell us.
Ironclad's in production right now.
So in my opinion, the Ironclad was the best cargo ship I had seen up to this point, but I'm a little iffy on it now as they put in freight elevators, and I'm not sure what moving the cargo through the main door would be like, because I can't see a way where we're grabbing from a cargo elevator and then putting down into our ship from up top, which would be much smoother, right? We'll just see, but I'm glad to see that ship is getting started. And then there was IAE Show episode 4. Now, this was not an episode for any valuable information. It was an interview with the voice actor of Jax McCleary. It was a good watch, but nothing to clip out information-wise on Star Citizen, right? So let's move on to other updates, and there's some good stuff there. All right, and as always, we start out with the sneak peek. Not that much of a sneak, but this is the Mirai helmet that goes with the full racing suit that we saw at CitizenCon. What we know about this is that it will give the best G-force resistance out of anything that we saw at CitizenCon, and some thermal and things like that as well. We also don't have a timeline for any of these new armor sets to come online, but it will absolutely change the FPS experience and possibly the ship experience forever when it does. Then for dev posts, we had the Pioneer update that I hinted at earlier. So they are giving us a heads up that they are raising the price of the Pioneer by $75, or raised it at this point, because it's so much better now. I'll remind everyone that they haven't made it yet, but it also does sound like a massive mobile crafting base that can mine. So yeah, it's pretty overpowered. But with that price increase, you're losing value. You no longer get an 8x8 parcel or land claim beacon, right? And more details on that will come, why they did that. But if you have one, you won't lose it. And like I said earlier, they haven't made any of this yet. So until we know more or see more, I really don't care if they raise prices or tell us that they're going to tell us something at some point. I want to see it and I want to play it. And that's all that really matters, right? Especially when you can earn them in game. Then Patch Watch 4.0, they, for some reason, skipped the actual rewards in-game, like cracked attachments and military-grade components for ships at contested zones, and instead talked about scorched fire rats loot. And for now, these are just skins. So cool, I guess, but they're just not my style. I'm not a really big purple fan. Then they shared the Carrack improvements that we showed you last week, and FOIP improvements that they showed at CitizenCon, but I don't use it, so I have no idea if it's working better or not. Then the Polaris question and answer thread, started out with the ship strengths and weaknesses. I think it's obvious the strengths are the torps, but they mentioned brawling as its weakness. I'm not a combat guy. What is a brawling ship? What is brawling in Star Citizen? Let me know. Please let me know in the comments. I'm very curious because I don't. Then they let us know that there won't be the menu that we see when repairing if you go into the cargo bay. Everything is going to be manual. What I find to be interesting, and why I brought this up, is that they're kind of confirming manual refueling, and I sort of wonder what this will look like. Lastly, navigating the ship isn't that easy, so they let us know that they will add that when they finish the interior of the ship. It was clear it wasn't ready in time for the event, but they shipped it anyway, which is something I want to point out I'm fine with. I wish they would do more of this. I would literally fly a giant gray box to give feedback on. I would. Terrapin question and answer was a thing as well. And the first 3 questions is that the team did nothing special to the ship in terms of stats, just wanted to make a medical variant kind of quickly, because honestly, the players have been begging for it. Hammering home that point again, the speed is the same. Both ships got a flight rework though, and then they share how it stacks up against its competition, and its selling point is just a better bed. Galactapedia, we got the main article this time, which is kind of cool, I think, because it's my favorite manufacturer, Argo. I found out that Argo started out as a train company once, and when you realize it, look at the ships. I don't think you'll ever unsee it. And then the side articles were mostly like clothing companies in the game. Not really sure how this is going to play out. And then lastly, the Intrepid was so bad, they decided to give it a free paint to everyone who buys it. And I think they were hoping more people would buy it, but my guess is not that many people did. So that was this week, and I am so glad it's over. That was a lot of stuff to cover, a lot of ship sales, a lot of events, a lot of things going on, and I am just glad we get a little bit of a breather, and I'm less of a breather, more of a focus on what matters, and that is 4.0, right? And 4.0 is not improving. It's actually regressing in terms of the experience as more players are playing it and as the servers are staying up longer. So it still needs a lot of work, and there's like 20 days before this thing goes live. I think the 22nd of December is like the last Friday before the holiday break. So I imagine that's it. It either goes live or it goes open PTU and they call it a holiday, and we don't see them until basically February at that point. So fingers crossed. That's all I got to say, because this thing is going to go no matter what. And I just hope it's good. I just hope it's good. And with that, thank you so much for watching. Once again, we didn't have any sponsors today, so I would really appreciate it if you went above and beyond and became a member here, or just stopped by the Twitch channel and said what's up. And thought about picking up some merch or something like that. So leave a comment down below on anything that we discussed and anything I may have missed, and subscribe if you guys really enjoy the Weeks in Review, and I'll catch you guys next week.